Stories whisper, stories keep. The fire burns, but you won't sleep. Camp creeps. Camp creeps.
They say the bridge still breathes on cold nights. If you stand close enough, you can hear it. The sighing in the wood, deep and slow, like something trapped inside is trying to scream. Nobody in Mill Hollow takes the back road anymore. Not since the disappearances. Tourists don't know better. They come in for fishing, antiques, that pretty drive along the river, and some of them don't come back. The locals keep quiet, always have. It's easier that way. They don't need strangers asking why the old covered bridge still stands, leaning over the water like a rib cage, the wood gone soft with age, the paint long stripped away by rain and rot. They call it Mercy Bridge, though that's not its real name. Nobody remembers who it was built for, but everybody remembers how it sounds. That creaking, that long groan when the wind pushes through, like the boards are shifting in their sleep. Some say the bridge just sank with age. Others say it feeds. Welcome back to Camp Creeps. This creepy tale is called The Bridge That Always Feeds. The night Ray Mercer rolled into Mill Hollow, the rain had already started. Heavy, cold, the kind that turns back roads into rivers. His dog, a black and tan mutt named Scout, lay curled on the passenger seat, ears twitching every time thunder cracked through the hills. Ray was a practical man, trucker, mechanic, the kind who could fix anything but himself. The map said the bridge was the quickest way to reach the main highway. Nobody told him otherwise. The town itself was small, half asleep, a handful of lights scattered along the main street. He pulled into the diner near closing time, mud on his boots and the smell of wet dog following him in. The waitress was wiping down the counter. She looked up when he ordered coffee and directions. "Where are you headed?" she asked. "Out toward Mather's Ridge. Figured I'd take the old road by the river. Cuts the time in half." Her rag froze mid-wipe. "You mean Mercy Bridge?" Ray nodded, confused. "Is that the name of it?" The cook, an older man with a gray beard, looked up from the grill. "Ain't been called that for a long time," he muttered. The waitress's voice went softer. "You don't want to drive that way after dark." Ray smiled, tired. "Road's a road." The cook shook his head. "Not that one." But he went anyway. Ray left Mill Hollow a little after midnight, rain still coming down in thin, needling lines that caught the headlights like static. The main road wound north, but the turnoff for the back way wasn't even marked. Just a break in the trees and a faded sign half swallowed by ivy. Scout growled low in the cab. Ray reached over, scratched behind his ears. "Easy, boy." Just a shortcut. The forest closed in quickly, trees leaning toward the road like they wanted to listen. The dirt track narrowed to a single lane, tire ruts glistening with water. Branches scraped the roof. After a few miles, the road curved, and he saw it through the rain. The covered bridge. It rose from the dark like a skeleton, long and narrow, its roof hunched and dripping. The old planks shone wet beneath the headlights, every nail slick with rust. One end disappeared into fog that rolled slow across the river, white and heavy as breath. Ray slowed. The windshield wipers ticked back and forth, useless against the mist that kept thickening. The bridge looked wrong, too narrow, too dark. He could see only the first few beams inside before the light seemed to dissolve. He cracked his window, and the smell hit him, not the clean scent of rain and wood, but something sour underneath, something wet and organic. He turned on his high beams. The light washed across the old wood and revealed carvings, initials, hearts, dates, decades worth of visitors who had passed through. But between the marks, strange gouges cut deeper into the beams, long, dragging lines that ran downward, almost like claw marks. Scout began to whine. All right, Ray muttered. He shifted into gear and rolled forward. The tires clunked onto the bridge. The sound echoed, deep, hollow, too alive. He made it halfway across before the first sound came. It wasn't the creak of wood. It was slower, rhythmic, the kind of noise you'd swear came from lungs, a slow, dragging inhale followed by a long, heavy exhale. The boards beneath the truck flexed and popped, a groan that vibrated through the steering wheel. Ray stopped. The wipers clicked once, twice. The headlights flickered. The bridge exhaled again. He could feel it, the air moving. Not wind, not through the windows, but under the truck, pushing upward in warm, damp gusts. Scout was barking now, clawing at the door. Something shifted in the beam above him, a ripple through the wood, subtle but visible, as if something large moved inside the plank itself. Ray leaned forward, staring. The wood's surface wasn't smooth. Beneath the thin layer of varnish, it moved. Tiny, irregular bulges rising and falling in rhythm with the sound, like breathing. He slammed the truck into reverse. The wheels spun. For a heartbeat, the bridge held him. The sound changed. The groaning became wet. The boards under the tires softened, sagging like flesh. The truck sank half an inch as if the bridge had turned to mud. Ray floored it. The tires screamed. The bridge let out a long, muffled moan that seemed to come from inside the wood, deep and desperate. A sound that didn't belong to timber or wind. It sounded like something feeding. The truck lurched backward, broke free, and hit solid ground. The bridge gave one last shudder, the sound of strained wood echoing through the rain. Then silence. Ray didn't wait. He turned the truck around, engine roaring, and didn't stop until the lights of Mill Hollow came back into view. He parked in front of the diner, shaking, Scout still whining in the seat beside him. He could still hear it. The breathing, faint now, carried in the ringing in his ears. It wasn't just in his head. He could still feel it through the steering wheel, a heartbeat pulsing in the metal. Slow, heavy, waiting. The morning came gray and mean. The rain had stopped, but a low fog clung to the streets, heavy as wet wool. Ray hadn't slept. He'd sat behind the wheel all night in front of the diner, headlights off, one hand gripping the dog's collar whenever Scout started growling at nothing. When the neon sign in the window buzzed back to life, Ray finally got out. The waitress, same one from the night before, froze when he came through the door. Her eyes flicked to the mud on his jeans, the scratches on his arms, the way his dog's fur was still slick with river water. "You went that way," she said quietly. Not a question. Ray didn't answer. He just dropped into a booth and stared at the black coffee she poured. He could smell the bridge on himself, that same sour, wet stink of wood left too long underwater. The cook came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands. "Truck still running?" "Barely." He nodded, slid into the seat across from Ray. "You saw it, didn't you?" Ray looked up. What the hell was that thing? The cook's expression didn't change. He just stirred his own cup with a spoon that rattled against the porcelain. "You shouldn't have gone that way." "I didn't know," Ray said. "Most don't." Ray waited. The man's voice was calm, too calm. "You could have told me." The cook shrugged. "Would you have listened?" He didn't answer. The waitress was pretending to wipe down the counter, but her hands were shaking. The cook leaned forward. "You didn't stay on it long, did you?" Ray's jaw tightened. "Long enough. Then you got lucky." He was silent for a moment, then said, "Used to be folks would go missing every few years. Hunters, travelers, sometimes an animal or two, always at night, always near the bridge. Sheriff would make a show of looking, but nobody ever found much." He stirred the coffee again, slow circles. "Some say it was the river. Current pulls them under, they said, but we know better." Ray stared at him. "You know it's alive." The man's eyes flicked up. For a moment, Ray saw something. Fear, or maybe guilt. "Alive ain't the right word." "What is then?" Ray said. "Hungry," the cook replied. Ray felt his stomach twist. "Why don't you burn it? Tear it down?" The cook's laugh was short and bitter. "We tried. Twice. First time it rained for 7 days straight. Second time, fire wouldn't catch, just smoked and hissed like the wood was wet inside." Ray could still smell it. The sour human rot that clung to his skin, to the dog's fur. He pushed his coffee away. It's still out there. Still breathing. The cook didn't deny it. "Best thing you can do is leave it be. Folks around here learned that a long time ago." Ray stood up, his chair scraping across the floor. "I'm not from around here." He left before they could answer. Outside, the fog was thicker now, curling around the truck like fingers. He looked back once at the diner. Through the window, the waitress stood with her hands flat on the counter, staring at him. She didn't wave, didn't move. When he started the engine, Scout began to growl low again, nose pressed to the windshield. The fog ahead seemed to shift, slow, pulsing in and out, like breath. By dusk, Ray was back on the road. The fog had lifted, but the air felt heavy, swollen with the memory of rain. The sun was a dull orange behind the trees, bleeding into the horizon. He'd spent the afternoon in the hardware store, buying what he could. 2 gas cans, a hatchet, a crowbar, and a box of matches that rattled in his pocket like teeth. The cashier didn't ask questions. Nobody in Mill Hollow ever did. Scout was restless. The dog kept pacing in the bed of the truck, nose in the air, whining at the wind. Ray didn't speak to him. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the road. He reached the turnoff just as the last light died. The bridge waited ahead, dark now, the fog thick again and moving like slow breath. The truck's headlights cut through the mist, catching the red of the old roof, the wet gleam of its walls. The air smelled worse than before, sweet and rotted, like spoiled meat and moss. Ray parked 50 feet away, grabbed the cans, and walked forward. Each step made the boards creak beneath him, though he wasn't even on the bridge yet. The sound came from inside it, that slow, dragging inhale, followed by the groan of exhale, the sound of breathing. He climbed the first plank, Scout behind him, growling low. The air was warm here, too warm. He unscrewed the gas cap and began to pour. The liquid splashed over the boards, running in narrow streams down the support beams. The wood drank. He could see it, the gas sinking in too fast, like the planks were thirsty. Ray stopped, staring. The boards beneath his boots were slick and soft. He knelt, pressed a hand to one. It gave beneath his palm. The texture wasn't wood. It was grainy, fibrous, warm. He yanked his hand back. His fingers came away damp. Not from gas, from something thicker. The smell hit him then, a wave of rot and iron, and underneath it, the unmistakable copper sting of blood. Scout barked once, sharp, and bolted toward the far end of the bridge. "Scout!" Ray shouted. His voice echoed through the wooden tunnel, bouncing off the ribs of the structure. He ran after him. Halfway across, the bridge moved. The planks buckled upward, the beams groaned, and a low, wet moan rolled through the space, not from the river below, but from the wood itself. The sound was everywhere. Ray stumbled, grabbed a post for balance, and felt it pulse. The wood shivered under his hand, a rhythmic thud moving through it like a heartbeat. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. The dog was barking at something ahead, at the far wall of the bridge, where the shadows were thickest. The boards there looked swollen, bubbled outward in knots that twitched when the light hit them. He took a step closer. The knots opened. Not eyes, not mouths, something between. Pores, slick and round, flexing open and shut, breathing in the air, breathing him. He threw the gas can, lit a match, and tossed it after. The flame caught for half a heartbeat before snuffing out, hissing as if doused from within. The wood steamed, and then it screamed. The bridge let out a sound so low it rattled Ray's ribs, a bellow that started deep and climbed, turning into a chorus of groans, moans, and shrieks. It sounded like every creak the structure had ever made, layered and twisted into agony. The boards beneath him began to split, long cracks racing toward his feet. Black fluid seeped out, bubbling, reeking of rot and iron. The smell made him gag. He turned and ran, Scout ahead of him, claws slipping on the slick planks. Behind them, the bridge heaved, the floor rising and falling like a chest struggling to breathe. As he leapt onto solid ground, a final groan echoed behind him, a sound almost human, almost pleading. The bridge exhaled. A rush of hot air blasted out of the tunnel, carrying the stink of old blood and river mud. The gas cans rolled from his hands, empty. When he looked back, the bridge was still, silent. But it was not gone. Ray didn't leave Mill Hollow, not right away. He stayed at the motel off Main Street, the one with the flickering sign and the mildew smell baked into the curtains. Every night, he'd sit by the window with Scout asleep at his feet, staring at the tree line. He could hear it sometimes, the low creak carried on the wind, the bridge breathing. He started driving out there during the day. Never crossed it, not again, but parked just far enough that he could see the roof's dark outline through the trees. Sometimes he'd catch the movement of birds landing on it, and then, just as suddenly, flying away. The town pretended not to see him. The waitress avoided his table. The cook stopped talking altogether. When he went to the hardware store for more gas, the clerk didn't even meet his eyes. They'd all decided, quietly, that Ray Mercer didn't exist anymore. By the third week, he stopped trying to sleep. The sound was in him now, that slow inhale and exhale. Sometimes he'd catch himself breathing in time with it, chest rising when he swore he could feel the air move, even miles away. He started writing things down, sketches, notes, measurements, pages and pages of a plan, to burn it, to dig it up, to tear it apart until nothing but splinters and ash were left. He told Scout they'd finish it this time. Scout wagged his tail, but didn't go near the truck anymore. The next morning, Ray drove out before dawn. The air was heavy and still. Not a single bird called. He parked at the edge of the woods and walked the rest of the way. The bridge looked different in daylight, quiet, almost innocent. The paint peeled in long curls. A thin layer of mist clung to the water beneath. He stood there for a long time, staring at it, waiting for it to move. It didn't. Not yet. He opened the first can, poured a thick trail along the planks. The smell of gasoline bit at his nose. When the wind shifted, he froze. It wasn't wind, it was breath. The boards beneath his boots flexed slightly, like something waking up. The ribs of the bridge creaked in that slow, steady rhythm. Scout barked once behind him, then twice more, sharper. Ray turned, but the dog wasn't looking at him. He was staring down at the water. Beneath the bridge, something shifted. Just a glimpse, the ripple of something pale sliding through the current. Too big to be fish, too fluid to be wood. Ray dropped the can. "Not this time," he whispered. He struck a match. The bridge moved faster than he could see. The match went out. His hands hit the boards, splinters driving deep. Beneath the surface, the wood was soft, pulsing, wet. It gripped him, not with fingers but pressure, sucking, pulling. Scout was barking frantically, claws scrabbling on the planks, but Ray was already halfway under. He screamed once, a short, guttural sound, swallowed by the bridge's groan. Then silence. When the sheriff came looking 2 days later, they found his truck, his dog, and 2 empty gas cans. The bridge stood unburned, its roof dark with rain. The boards were smooth again. The town said little. A few whispered that the dog wouldn't leave the riverbank for days, whining into the water until it finally went quiet. No one touched the bridge after that. But sometimes, late at night, when the fog rolls thick along the river, you can still hear it. The creak, the sigh, the long, slow groan of wood shifting like lungs. And if you stand close enough, just close enough to touch, you might swear you hear a man's voice breathing with it. In, out, always hungry, always waiting. If you ever find yourself driving through a small town at night and someone tells you not to take the back road, maybe listen, because some bridges don't just carry you across, they take you with them. If you made it this far, you must enjoy the dark. So go on, subscribe to Camp Creeps, like the video, and share it so others can sit with us by the fire. We tell stories here every week, stories you'll never forget. But be careful. If you leave without subscribing, well, the next story might come looking for you. This is Camp Creeps, where the stories don't end when the fire dies.